Hello again, fellow Aussie music lovers. How has your week been so far? This is your favorite podcast host, Saba from the Silly McWiggles blog. Welcome to the very first Silly Encore with a Melbourne-based artist and producer, DZirè. Last Sunday, I spoke to the musician about how it all started, recording music in her own bedroom with her dad and refining it for the market, and also about the challenges of being independent. She introduced me to her new venture, DZirè Music as well, that she established to help other artists refine their alternative music content. In this short episode, we're taking a deeper dive into DZirè's craft and the music she's released so far. Stick around after the episode to hear her new single, Gun Love, that dropped last Friday, December 3rd. I wanted to ask you about your songwriting process, and also that comes from one of your posts on Facebook, because I'm going to quote here. You said that, my songwriting process changes every time, and every song, not one is the same. So can you kind of talk me through it? Because, there are different methods, obviously, and different people do it in different ways. Some start with the lyrics and then they just come up with a melody. Some do it the other way around. So, give me an example of a song, for example, maybe from the EP, the Love Train EP, that, there was some kind of structure to it, or maybe not. So just as a, curiosity kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the Love Train EP, it very much started off when I wrote that song specifically. I only wrote the very first line. That's all I had for almost 6 months. I was working in South Australia at a door-to-door company, so I was knocking and selling on doors. And I think was working really hard, and I'd only get a few hours every night at the end of a work day. And so I would just sit down at the piano, and I think the main thing for me is music, sound, an instrument evokes emotion, right? So I would, with that song specifically, how it started, it was just finding the right chord progression, and that happens quite quickly. I'll find a random chord progression, and I sort of I want to play chords that represent how I feel in the moment, at that moment. And then from there, I hummed the melody. So I got the melody down, and then that's when I went to, and I wrote lyrics that way. So then afterwards I was like, I'm riding on the love train. That was a bit more thought out with the lyric element. So it was the piano first, then humming the melody that I liked. And then, after that, it was filling in and thinking a bit more logical brain, what lyrics to put in.
And it's funny, when we talk now about creativity, because people kind of, I'm not sure how to explain that, but I've been thinking about it a lot recently as well. Like, everybody wants you to be creative now, but that's obviously, there are different definitions of what creativity is. And it's not that you just wake up and all of a sudden you've got it all, down. So I guess with you guys musicians as well, it's like you've got a certain idea in your head, and then it kind of sits there until you're ready to kind of let it out, because then it just kind of comes out, pouring out. But what I wanted to ask you is this. Now, I'm not sure if I understood that correctly. The Love Train EP is a re-released one, right? So you kind of recorded it earlier on. So let me ask you this. When you were re-releasing it, did you redo it at all? Or did you leave it as it was and just kind of put in it refreshed it a bit? And the reason I'm asking you is because, like you said just a minute ago now as well, when you write a song, it represents a certain state of mind at that point in time. So when you listen to it a few years later, you might be like, oh, it's really strange. Like, I should really make changes to it, because that's not how I want it to sound right now. So what was the case of the re-release? Like, did you just leave it, or did you kind of tweak it a little?
Yeah, so that's what's super interesting. So when it came to the re-release, the reason for the re-release was just a lack of understanding of how to have promoted myself in 2017. Like, it was just so bedroom, because it's completely bedroom recorded. Confidence issues as well. That's a big thing. Like, there's a huge space between artist and industry. Like, that gap is just so massive, and it is so huge. And it took a lot of growing up to realize that gap and what's required. So for me, there was a lot of self-doubt I had with myself. Like, honestly, when I first released that, just to be that vulnerable and to, open up. And so I did a lot of growing through that process. So then when I looked back, it's like I only had love for myself for what I had done and how I didn't back myself. So I released it exactly how it was when I first did it and didn't back myself.
That's
so
really
yeah, that was kind of what was behind it, I suppose. It was just like, you know what, it was as good as it, you know, if no one's gonna back you, like you've got to back yourself. So I didn't want to so much tweak it. I wanted to just do it for me in a way. I don't know, but it's pretty much as it was in 2017, just re-released to a platform where it can be heard. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just on Triple J Unearthed. That's the only place it was. So
cool. Well, Triple J Unearthed is quite a big thing because they're, you know, the platform. I mean, I'm in awe of that platform, and I think it's the only one in the world that I know where you guys, like unsigned musicians, can just upload a track, and then you've got professionals in the music industry plus the fans kind of hear it and review it as well. I think it's an amazing idea, and if I could, I would kind of transport it over here as well, and I'm thinking about how to do it because I think it's amazing. Anyways, tell me about your favorite places in Melbourne when it comes to music. Not necessarily venues, but maybe something where places where you go and they inspire you, like, you know, like some lyrics happened when you were there, or like you had a melody in your head, or I don't know, some musicians. What are some of those places?
Look, things that inspire me about Melbourne is definitely like the streets of it. Like I love the Fitzroy, you know, the Collingwood, like just walking down those streets, the street art, all of that grit is what inspires me to write music. And I've been to a lot of sort of underground gig venues. Like there used to be this one called Irene's Warehouse I'd go to, and it was almost like, it's so cool. It was like a house, and it was kind of in the suburbs. And I used to love going there because I love the trains as well.
Me too.
Yes, it's just awesome. And so for me, like even just like as something that's inspirational, sitting on a train with my headphones on, listening to music on a train, like even that's inspiring. That's what I love about the city. I love that real urban feeling I get. But we'd go to this venue and it was like a house, and it's Irene's Warehouse. And like, it's very different from the music, the atmosphere. It was like a post-punk gig, almost like you've just stepped in like to an 80s venue, and you've just got a whole lot of people, like a whole lot of people are smoking in there, a whole lot of people are drinking, you know, and it's just, you know, what I love about Melbourne, what inspires me musically is the grit, raw grime, like that side of it. The grit of Melbourne is, you know, in itself, like there's venues and you can see that everywhere you go, pocketed, like that kind of feeling. I think all of that inspires me. It's raw, it's urban, and I mean, at the end of the day, when you really think about it, that's what's in my music, you know. Love Train, you know, it's like, it's actually surprising now that you've said it, just how all these elements do tie in and inspire and, you know, and come into your music. Where you live is where you are and what you are as well. So yeah.
Do you think your music would be different had you been born in a different city, or if you lived in a different place in Australia?
Yeah, actually, I do. I think if I lived in like a beautiful countryside, my music would be influenced different, like in the country, like on a prairie, like it would be 100% not the same music, like, you know, and obviously this new EP that I've done, in terms of having written it in a lockdown, like I wrote the whole EP last year, it's got angst, you know what I mean? It's completely inspired by the environment, I would say. So I would definitely think it would have been different. Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned Fitzroy and Collingwood, because those were my favorite suburbs as well. And recently, I think there was like a Time Out did a ranking of the most livable suburbs in Melbourne. And obviously Fitzroy was the first one, like, you know, on top of the list. I used to live in Richmond. So, you know, I loved going to the corner. It was just around the corner, actually, from my house. So like, some of the best venues and stuff. May I ask where you live in Melbourne? Which suburb?
So I live in Thornbury.
Oh, another great one. Oh my God, I loved Welcome to Thornbury. I would always go for the food trucks, for the food, and, you know.
Yes, they've got absolutely. I'm a fan of that, absolutely.
And now, finally, after this super interesting chat, here is DZirè speaking about the new music she's been working on. You're working on new music. You're going to release a new EP. When is that coming? And can you tell me and everybody else something about it? Or is it a secret and you don't want to share it yet?
Oh, no, I'm happy to go into it because I think it's funny because there's obviously been a little bit of a time lapse between when I released the last one and now. And a huge part of that was that I was immersing myself in being a producer, right? And being able to, it was kind of developing that side of things. In that time, I've written probably 100 songs that I've wanted to release. So it's interesting that I'm going with this EP. It's more of a complete sidestep. It's almost like a persona EP. So something that's not quite. It's something I explored into aside from the Love Train EP. So it will be very different. It's a lot more dark pop. Like I would say, it's heavier elements vocally. It's a lot more overarching, not so much scream, but rockier vocals. So yeah, I would say it's a dark synth pop vibe, and it's it's super exciting because it's quite strong and it's quite shocking and it's quite abrupt and it's definitely a statement.
Okay. All right. Cool. So thank you very much once again. Have a nice evening. I guess it's like 8 o'clock now where you are? Yeah, 8 p.m.
8 o'clock. Yeah. Yes, 8 p.m. Wow. It's still pretty light, to be fair. Daylight saving.
Well, you are heading into summer now. I'm heading into winter, so I'm like, no.
Yeah. We're opposite.
Exactly. All right.
Beautiful.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, no worries. See you then. Bye bye. Ciao.
Bye.
This is it, fam. This week's Silly Talk and Silly Encore with the Melbourne-based producer and musician DZirè are done and dusted. Thanks heaps for listening. Stay tuned for new episodes with a new guest coming this Sunday and next Thursday. Oh, and have you followed this podcast yet so you won't miss them? You can find my other projects under the Silly McWiggles brand in the episode notes. And once again, thank you to DZirè for sharing her story and making the time to catch up, despite the 10-hour difference between us. Her new single, Gun Love, is now available on streaming platforms and DZirè's social media. I hope you dig it as well. And it sounds like this.